He's one of the owners here at Nemesis, and he's also the designer of this skid plate system. He's going to take you through the finer points of this, and also what his thought process is behind the development of this new product.
So when we started working with the concept of designing a gas tank skid plate, we looked at a number of different things. The first thing we did is spend about 1.5 years wheeling our test vehicle Dixie, as many of you may know her, and trying to determine where are the areas that a gas tank skid plate is going to take the most abuse. With the short arm kit, you see the abuse happening about all the way to halfway down, basically right where that arm hits. And so then when you look at a long arm kit that we placed on it later, we could see that right at the arm and is where it stopped. So the next step was to actually take it apart and figure out what was going on. Because as many of you know, the front side of the gas tank skid plates really take a beating. They get caved in, and you're losing a lot of fuel capacity. Or so you would think. Actually, when you look at the bottom of a factory gas tank skid plate, you see that it is nice and flat and they don't have a lot of support on the other side of the bolts. That's why that damage is happening there. The other reason is, on the actual factory gas tank, the tank comes up. There's actually about a 1/2 inch of clearance between the factory skid plate and the bottom of the factory gas tank for about the first 18 inches. And that's where you're seeing that movement. In seeing that, we realized that we could add considerably more material in this area and strengthen the area by taking a few liberties, and then we could still maintain our ground clearance by having, as in the skid plate, and I'll show you here in just a moment, we have 9/16 inch of a material in the front part of that gas tank skid plate, which gives us considerably more than what any overlay can. And that is the main reason why we did a complete replacement. So why don't you come on in here, and I'm going to start showing you some of the features of our gas tank and where we gain that strength. So the first feature I want to point out here is the most important and the main reason why we did a complete replacement gas tank skid. We were able to take advantage of that cavity that is between the bottom of the factory skid plate and the tank and the way it's shaped. That cavity measures right about 1/2 inch, a little greater, depending on the transition. It does angle up. So what we did is we went into this area, which is the most susceptible one to damage on a JK, and we added, well, a doubler plate, and we ran that plate up the side here a ways and up to this corner. So now we have 3/16, 3/16, which takes us up to 3/8. And then on top of that doubler plate, we add a tripler plate. So we're able to run this top plate right in here, and now we have 9/16 of an inch of material here. A little rule of thumb when you're designing with aluminum, for all those naysayers out there, is that when you're using a comparable steel versus aluminum, you want to use 1.5 times the thickness in aluminum as you would in steel. So if I'm designing something out of 1/8 inch steel, in order to have that same strength, I want to design it out of 3/16 aluminum. So let's bring that into here. With the 9/16 we have close to double the strength that a 3/16 steel plate will. Another feature that I need to bring your attention to is how we're running completely along the frame here. We bent it down at 90 degrees, and we ran this all the way up, and we added a hole here in the front. That is providing a tremendous amount of support right in this area where we once again are taking all of that impact. And that right there is going to stop this area from crushing. These are things that anyone who's building a overlay gas tank skid plate does not have these features. They're unable to do them. We're able to add all this material, add this strength, and maintain the same ground clearance. We're going to move on to the next feature I want to talk about. And the next thing is with our upright supports. We ran this transitioned all the way down into the bottom sheet. This was done for strength. We're not relying on the weld to hold this together. We actually have a mechanical mate between these two plates. So while the weld is holding everything in place, when you take a sharp impact, we don't have a shear force on this weld. Therefore, we're not going to see any cracking or fracturing as things move along. Another feature you'll notice is right here on the side, our oval dimple dies. I love ellipses. I love the fact that we can dimple die them. We're the only ones who can. The other notion is that it adds strength into this material. So while we're able to get the lightening advantage by removing a little bit of material, the main reason is we're able to strengthen this panel to get some more rigidity between all of our uprights. Let's move to the rear so I can show you what we did here. Another benefit of our replacement gas tank skid plate is that we were able to take advantage of the shape of the factory gas tank by coming in at a much more aggressive angle here in the rear. What this allowed us to do is clear any differential out there, be it a Dana 60, Dana 80, 1350 yokes, 1410 yokes. We have the room to clear those differentials. Let me give you a better look at that, and let's just flip it around. And what you can see here is that angle coming in right in this area. This also gives you a good view of our rear drain holes. The dimple die back here is purely aesthetic. Just love the look of it, and you'll notice that in everything we design. But it's going to allow us to drain all that water out, which is why they go down. So if you have any debris buildup that you're concerned about, mud, snow, just sand if you live on dirt roads, you can just stick a hose on the front side. You can see how smooth everything is, and that water is just going to transition out and fall right out the rear drain holes. That covers the features that I wanted to go over with our gas tank skid plate. Now we get to the most important part, weight. This is something that's everyone has their stance on it, and this is mine. I believe in keeping things as light as possible, but adding the strength where we need it. There's certain areas on a skid plate where you don't need it to be exceptionally heavy. We add the material on the front side where we need it. That is where we're taking the impacts, and it's because of the time we spend studying our vehicles, what happens to them. We're wheelers. We go beat them up. We go camping. We do everything that you can imagine with a Jeep, and a lot of things we shouldn't do. But that delivers you a quality product because we know where we have to add the material, and we have added that strength where it needs to be. The back side of the gas tank skid plate doesn't need to be as beefy. It's not going to take an impact, and that's where we can save weight. We have put together a quality product here for you, and we're talking about weight. Believe it or not, this gas tank skid plate with all the additional strength and features we've added weighs 8 pounds less than the factory steel skid plate. And that's why we made it our cornerstone piece. You have to start with our gas tank skid plate in order to build into the rest of our kit, and you're going to see substantial weight savings as we go. It's pretty impressive. We have the videos that you can watch about how we're abusing them. And so now I want to show you how the rest of this system goes together. So we're going to bring in the next piece of the puzzle, which is our cross-member transfer case skid plate.